morning, Oviedo. I'm Paula Rodriguez.
And I'm Ben Robinson. Today is Thursday, November 30th.
While the holiday season is getting into a full swing, another season is coming to an end. Today marks the last day of hurricane season.
This season is the first time that a hurricane has made landfall in the state of Florida since Hurricane Wilma in 2005.
Hurricane Irma impacted our area more than any storm since 2004, when 3 hurricanes made landfall in Seminole County.
For most Oviedo High students, this is their first memorable encounter with hurricane conditions.
Today, we're taking a look back at the impacts of this storm. Coming up, Ryan gives us a rundown of basic information about hurricanes.
Brooke looks at a certain aspect of our infrastructure.
Leanne asks when it's appropriate to evacuate.
And Ashlyn introduces us to a home anticipating a need for future storms.
Let's get it started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Although some of you may think Hurricane Matthew made landfall last year, it actually didn't. To clarify, making landfall refers to when a hurricane's eye wall comes onshore. Hurricane Matthew's eye wall stayed just offshore, leaving us with only tropical storm level impacts.
To put the difference in perspective, Hurricane Matthew generated 15,000 cubic yards of waste, while Hurricane Irma generated nearly 1 million.
Much of the area here along Lake Jessup was and still is affected by storm surge.
From flooding to downed trees and power outages, many of you were impacted in a variety of ways, and our campus wasn't immune to damage either.
There were several parking signs and stop signs on campus that were snapped in half. The main damage was on Building 5 in front of the media center. We lost a large portion of the gutter system up there. Also back by the tennis courts, we had a couple of our nets were ripped as well. There was a tree adjacent to building 13 and 12 that really the whole top portion of the tree was damaged and had to be removed.
Where my house is located, it's in a lower field than all the surrounding properties. So unfortunately what happens is all the water from all the surrounding properties end up in my property. We had a little bit of flooding in my house itself.
We lost power for like a good week and a little bit, and like my whole trail was torn apart, so I couldn't run on there. And my neighbor's house got like a whole tree knocked down on like their roof, so, and their whole screen like blew over. So.
Hurricanes are complex storms which range in intensity from Category 1, which has sustained winds of between 75 and 95 miles an hour, to Category 5, which has sustained winds over 157 miles an hour.
In fact, Hurricane Irma, at one point in its course, reached to be a Category 5 hurricane with sustained winds of just above 185 miles per hour.
For some more need-to-know information about these fierce and complex systems, let's go to Reinhardt.
Hurricanes are a common occurrence in the state of Florida, as many Floridians know. Every year, these wonders of nature capture the attentions of millions of individuals across the Gulf Coast and eastern United States, filling those individuals with curiosity as they focus on the preparation for these storms. However, as Florida will gear up to face another hurricane season just 5 months from now, how much do you know about how hurricanes form and the facts surrounding them? Just recently, in 2014, the National Weather Service stated that a lack of hurricane preparedness and awareness are common threads among all major hurricane disasters. Typically, hurricanes begin as a tropical wave coming from the African coast. For these waves to develop into hurricanes, there are 3 conditions needed: light upper-level winds, warm water at least 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and pre-existing conditions with thunderstorms. A phenomenon called the Coriolis effect apparently deflects the path of the formed hurricane, but in reality, the hurricane doesn't deviate from its path. The Coriolis force is essential for hurricanes as it contributes to the rotation of the object, which differs based on the hemisphere that the storm forms in. In the southern hemisphere, they rotate in a clockwise direction, and in the northern hemisphere, they rotate in a counterclockwise direction. No matter the name or how they are formed, hurricanes are a deadly force. One huge hurricane can release energy equivalent to 10 atomic bombs per second. These powerful storms contribute to more deaths than any other type of storm, beating natural disasters such as earthquakes and tornadoes. In the last 200 years alone, 1.9 million people have been estimated to have been killed by hurricanes. A majority of hurricanes are milder and do not cause the immense damage associated with monster storms such as Katrina. One of these monster storms was Hurricane Irma, who made history as being the storm that holds sustained 185-mile-per-hour winds for the longest time, being over 24 hours. Hurricane Patricia in 2014 had the highest wind speeds ever recorded at 215 miles per hour. That's more than 50 miles per hour over the threshold of 155 that's needed for a Category 5 storm. Overall, the most active season in Atlantic Basin history was in 2008 as 28 named storms formed that season. In reality, hurricanes are an amazing force in nature that are dangerous to those individuals who aren't prepared. For WROR-TV, I'm Ryan Hart.
The need for food, electricity, and water are at the forefront of everybody's mind when a hurricane hits.
It's easy to forget that once that food and water has been consumed and digested, it needs a place to go.
The role of sewage in our daily lives is easy to overlook, but it's not immune to issues during a storm, as Brooke Brennan reports.
During a hurricane, the concern is get my power back on, get my cable back on so I can see what's going on, and get my water back on. But one of the issues that happens is that people have potable water and they don't think about what's happening when they're flushing, and if lift stations aren't working, you can have sanitary overflows.
For Oviedo resident Joe Chance, that's exactly what happened.
The manhole cover out in the middle of the circle in front of our house backed up. Raw sewage was running all over the street. The sewer backed up into my bathroom, a master bathroom, but we had raw sewage, toilet paper, everything in the middle of the street.
It seems automatic that what goes down our drain simply washes away, but the infrastructure that handles our sewage system is much more complex.
So it's not just bathroom waste, it is water that's leaving your washing machine, your kitchen sinks, brushing your teeth, that goes down the drain, taking a shower, that goes down the drain. And it travels through a collection pipe, kind of like the arteries in veins in your arm. We have over 200 lift stations in the city of Orlando. Those lift stations lift the waste up and pump it on down to its next point, so it can travel on through those 800 miles of pipe to one of our 3 treatment facilities.
We're collecting all the waste and bringing it to treatment plants and treating it. It prevents the outhouses at the houses or like an apartment complex. And what you see a lot of times in third world countries where there is not extensive infrastructure or treatment plants is a lot of waterborne diseases like typhoid.
When a storm like Irma hits, rainfall can burden the system, and it's all hands on deck to make sure sewage is reaching the plant.
We have, a crew that goes out with chainsaws, and if they have to cut the debris to move to get to the lift stations to make sure they're clear, they do that first. So even though the power turns back on, our collection system, just like I said with the veins in your body, are just full, and we have to get that through the plant.
Just like the power company works at getting the power out, we work at getting the water back to the treatment plants, because once we get it to the treatment plant, we can take care of it.
And each resident can play a role in minimizing the potential for issues.
So we want people to be able to notify us if there is a sanitary sewer overflow, and we want to be able to take care of that as quick as possible. We want them to try and use water as little as possible and try and reduce the amount that's actually going down into the drains.
They had so many generators that was out. I know this is not the only subdivision it happened in. They did the best they could do, and I know they was inundated with work, so they had so much to do that it was unbelievable. But all in all, I think they did a pretty good job.
If you don't know about us, then we're doing our job. So people flush the toilet and they forget about it.
For Oviedo's WROR-TV, I'm Brooke Brennan.
We're going to take a quick break for today's announcements and a couple results from our athletes.
Boys basketball had their first regular season game last night on the road. For that and more, let's go to TJ Seegers back in the studio.
Hey Oviedo, I'm TJ here with some announcements and sports updates. Point cards for National Honor Society are due December 8th. Be sure to check Canvas announcements for specific information about donation items needed for the holidays. The next Literary Lions meeting will be on Tuesday, December 5th from 2:30 to 3:30 in Miss Miller's room 8215. They will be discussing the Arts Unleashed digital magazine and having book talks. Attendees are encouraged to bring their books to the meeting. The Key Club meeting, scheduled for Tuesday, December 5th at 2:30 in the Media Center, has been rescheduled for Monday, December 4th in Miss Riley's office at 2:30. Now a quick sports update. Last night, boys basketball defeated Lake Howell 86 to 63. Ada Knight had 21 points and Mamouche Galloway had 20. Boys varsity soccer tied Lake Brantley 1-1, and girls weightlifting defeated Lake Mary 56 to 23. Tonight, girls varsity basketball is at home versus Orlando Christian Prep at 6 p.m. Be sure to tune in for O-Town Sports tomorrow, where we'll take a look back at the girls bowling state championship and show you some highlights from boys basketball's preseason classic on the road at Hagerty. All right, that's all I got. Let's send it back to Paula and Ben.
A question many people ask when a hurricane is coming is whether they should evacuate.
Some people might evacuate unnecessarily, while others don't evacuate until it's too late.
So what factors should you consider when deciding? Leanne Figueroa explains.
During hurricane season, millions of people can clog the roads as they flee from upcoming storms. But how do you know when you should evacuate? Hurricanes and even tropical cyclones are capable of producing torrential rains. So unlike the hill behind me, if you fall into the category of people who reside in a low-lying area, it is absolutely crucial that you evacuate immediately. And this notice applies to homes like the one behind me. According to the NOAA, hurricane-force winds can easily take down poorly constructed and mobile homes. So if that applies to you, then you too have to hit the road. The decision to evacuate affects not only you, but those you may not know who absolutely have to leave their homes. So next storm season, make sure you make the right choice. From WROR-TV, I'm Leanne Figueroa.
Finally, one major news story that's making headlines nationwide comes out of Hollywood, Florida, where several residents of a nursing home died after losing air conditioning.
And while the deaths were also attributable to negligence, one local facility decided it wants to ensure its residents are better suited for future storms.
For more, here's Ashton Register.
After 3. 4, do you have $4? What's the next thing after 4?
The ECE classes here at Oviedo High School were affected in different ways by power outages caused by hurricanes such as Hurricane Irma.
With our special needs program here, we have a lot of students with varying exceptionalities. There are students with autism that have behavioral conditions, so when the power goes out, they may not understand quite why it has, which can set them off and they can go into crisis mode. So storms like Hurricane Irma can really affect people with special needs.
In Hollywood Hills, located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at a nursing home, there were 12 patients who died because the home didn't have any power. A not-for-profit corporation located in Central Florida is trying to prevent that from happening to their residential living home residents.
We serve 6 individuals with intellectual disabilities, including autism, in community residential homes, just like the one we're in front of today. And when the hurricane struck, all of our homes lost power. So the individuals in the home, they need assistance in activities of daily living, they need assistance with maintaining their room, clothing maintenance, they need assistance, they have deficits in coping skills and social skills, and when the power's out, those deficits oftentimes are magnified.
Tannen Corporation is raising money for generators like this one to help prevent future fatal injuries and to prepare for hurricanes to come.
Had prepared a variety of things we prepared for the hurricane. It's starting with, we have emergency water at each one of our homes, we have emergency food supply, flashlights, some of those basic kinds of things. And then we have a few generators that we have had that we can move from house to house if there's a power outage. But with the hurricane came, all of the homes lost power. We coped the best we could given the situation.
The caretakers in the house were also affected by the power outages during the hurricane.
During the hurricane, it was very difficult because the house was hot. You couldn't see very well. The guys were frustrated. You really couldn't function very well. There was a lot of stress because there wasn't any power.
They're raising money to assure the residents' loved ones that they're safe during a power outage.
Well, my biggest concern obviously was for my son Craig living here in the group home, because I did feel like I needed to bring Craig home with me for safety reasons. A lot of the guys have real struggles out of their normal routine, and it can provoke some behaviors, my son included.
When I think about Craig and David and Mike and are just examples of some of the individuals we support, and the idea that they went in a during a hurricane or some sort of power outage, the idea that we can provide an environment that would be safe and would promote dignity.
ECE teachers were affected personally by Hurricane Irma, just like caretakers and residents living in the residential homes.
Power is really difficult for my household personally because my husband has end-stage renal disease, so he has special needs and needs a dialysis machine at home, which has to be powered with electricity. Sometimes we'll go to a hospital because we don't have power. Thank goodness we were able to get a generator this year for Hurricane Irma. His dialysis machine was the only thing that could be powered, and that kind of kept him alive during the hurricane, so it was really important.
If you're interested in donating to the Generators Create Safe Homes campaign, donations can be made to Tannen Corporation, Generators Create Safe Homes, 2720 Staten Avenue, Orlando, Florida 32804. For WROR-TV, I'm Ashton Register.
Irma wasn't the first hurricane to come through Central Florida, and it certainly won't be the last.
Living in the Sunshine State ironically means that these storms are a part of our lives.
That's all we have for today's broadcast.
We'll see you back at the studio tomorrow for our O-Town Sports broadcast.
Have a great day.